They're legit are interviewing the guy that went 0-3 with Kyurem. And they're interviewing him a second time. Why? Why are they doing this? I don't understand. What's up, guys? Ninja Nick 333. We are back with... Oh, it didn't hit. I hit play. It didn't play. We are back with another round of the Japan Championships. Looks like one player got a mulligan here. Maybe we can skip slightly ahead to when they're actually playing the game. Oh, right. So it looks like a Lost Box deck here on the left versus an Arceus deck here on the right. Love those... The pile of Growliths there. The Hisuian Growliths. They are super adorable. I love how fluffy they look. Unlikely warm because they're fire type. But Lost Box deck playing Metal Energy even. So this could even in fact be Goodra potentially. You never know. It could just be a regular single prize Lost Box deck, or it could have Goodra because, you know, either way. You have this Zamazenta in there. You're already playing the Metal Energy, so it could go either way. Zamazenta has one of those revenge attacks where it just boosts itself by like 100 or 120. It does a total of 220 if one of your Pokemon was knocked out on the previous turn. Enough to one-shot any Pokemon V in the game, as well as a lot of basic EXs as well. Or most basic EXs and most basic Vs, because I guess Tyranitar is 230 as a basic. But anyway, looks like, I think I saw a fighting. Is that a fighting energy in there as well? I don't know what they'd be playing the fighting for unless they have maybe Galarian Zapdos V in the deck. But again, we're just using our Battle VIP Pass. We're going to get some Pokemon out of the deck here. We get a full bench out. We have double Cramorant as well as double Comfey. I don't know if you really need the second Cramorant right now. I think that you try to just go for as many cards in the Lost Zone as possible turn 1. So I think I would have liked to see an additional Comfey instead. I think getting the one Cramorant is still correct, but maybe not 2 at this point. Attaches a Psychic Energy to the Comfey and passes. I'm not sure what the Psychic Energy is going to do to the Comfey if you don't have a way to move your Zamazenta. So you could have attached it to the Zamazenta, and then next turn, if you have another energy, you could hard retreat it into the Comfey to get a Flower Selecting off. But putting it on the 1 retreat cost Pokemon would be fine. You have the Colress's Experiment in hand. He just pointed to it as well. So as long as you get maybe something like a Switch Cart or an Escape Rope off of that, the Psychic Energy is a lot more well utilized on the Comfey. Gets you more value there. So we see our player on the right is going to Nest Ball for another Arceus V. So it is good to chain Arceus Vs in this matchup because you can always play a card like Sharon's Care after you get hit by a Cramorant to put the Arceus line back into your hand, reutilize your energies, putting those double turbos back into hand as well to be used on another Arceus. Effectively erases one of your opponent's turns, makes it a lot more favored. Unfortunately, it looks like we missed the energy attachment, so we're not going to be able to get a Trinity Nova off for at least another turn. I mean, if there's a knockout from the Lost Box deck here, and you get an energy in the discard pile, you might be able to Raihan your way to a Trinity Nova. But it looks like on this next turn, you're going to be looking for a double turbo energy in order to Trinity Charge. And that's really what you wanted to see on this previous turn. If you were able to Trinity Charge, you'd have the threat of both Arceus on this next upcoming turn. You could put all 3 basic energies to the benched Arceus. If it got escape roped up, you'd have enough energy in play to knock it out. If it did not get escape roped up, you just need 1 energy attachment for a turn. So knowing that this is a Lost Box deck, you know that the likelihood of them playing escape rope is probably high. So putting all 3 energy to the benched Arceus feels the most correct here. Looks like there is a fire and a darkness energy here in this Arceus deck as well, so I'm very curious to see exactly what Pokemon this deck is playing. It would have to be playing some other Pokemon V. So maybe we're seeing like maybe a Charizard VMAX, even Darkrai V-Star. I mean, unlikely Darkrai V-Star since there's fire energy in the deck. You'd want to be playing only darkness energy. But we're going to use a couple of Flower selecting is here, utilizing that psychic energy that was put down that first turn. We were able to get into that escape rope, of course. Like I said, that we needed. Ooh, double discard of the Chorus's Experiment with the Pokestop. That is very bad. You do not want to see that. So that's 2 Chorus's Experiments down. I think there's only 1 left now. Plays a second escape rope, forces that original Arceus back up yet again. And we're just going to hit into that with the Cramorant for 110 damage, since there are 4 cards in the Lost Zone now. Looks like we're also going to attach a Darkness Energy for the turn as well. This might be playing the Galarian Moltres Single Prizer, which can one-shot Mew and Mewtwo V Union, Mew V Max and Mewtwo V Union. As long as your opponent has taken enough prize cards, it does hit for Dark Weakness. Also Gardevoir EX as well. So it's not that bad, but a lot of people who've played the Galarian Moltres have told me that it's not that great. It's not very usable in a lot of situations. Looks like they're playing Moltres V, the Galarian Moltres V in this deck, because that's being highlighted right now. So that would be why there's the Darkness Energy, but I'm not sure if that card alone is worth putting into your deck. But again, these players are 4-0. Maybe she hit a lot of Gardevoir matchups or Mew VMAX matchups, and that card is very useful in both of those matchups. So again, what are we seeing the Fire Energy for? Is this some sort of Moltres deck? Maybe you have the single prize Moltres in there somehow too, with this Scorched Earth? I don't know. I'm just talking crazy now. So we do see Iono. We are going to shuffle our hands, put them on the bottom of the deck. Each player is going to draw cards equal to their remaining prize cards. So that is 6 for both players. So the player on the left with the Lost Box probably did lose a couple of cards in that exchange. And anything that they were building up and conserving in their hand did go to the bottom of the deck. So a little bit early for them to want to be Iono'd, or for you to even want to Iono them. But of course, Lost Box can thin their deck quite a bit, so I don't really think that Iono is too much of a hindrance to the Lost Box deck, as a lot of players think it is. Because I've Roxanned a lot of Lost Box decks before in my life, and they've always drawn what they needed off of that. So looks like we are going to go for the Trinity Charge here. Is going to put 3 Darkness Energies into play onto the Arceus V-Star onto the bench. So it looks like we are going to be sacrificing this upfront Arceus, which is a little bit unfortunate, but at least we are able to get some energy into play. So we're going to go on a 2 prize deficit here in order to be able to take 1 prize next turn. Feels really bad, but you got to do what you got to do. It would have been really great to see a Sharon's Care come out, but maybe they are not playing that. We're going to see the Pal Pad here. An alternative Pal Pad that we've never gotten, I don't believe. I was going to be able to shuffle those 2 Chorus's Experiments back into the deck that were milled off of that Pokestop. So actually not that bad. Still was able to get a Chorus's Experiment in hand for this turn. He drew that off of that Iono. I don't think he's played it yet. Yeah, it's still in hand, so he could go for that if he would like to. I think, why not? You're at 4 cards in the Lost Zone. You might as well get as close to 7 and 10 as you can in order to get to those Mirage Gate and Sableye turns. So we are, looks like there is a Metal Energy off of this. I think maybe an Energy Recycler. He's shuffling the hand around a bit, so it's a little hard to tell. So going to put 2 cards in the Lost Zone. Still can't tell what those cards are. Camera does not zoom out quite far enough. It looks like one of them was a Super Rod. I think maybe the other one was the... Or no, that looks like the 4th card is the Pokegear. Either way, there's a Super Rod in there. That's actually relevant. That is a really good card in the Lost Box deck, being able to reutilize some of the Pokemon and energies that you have. If you use a lot of concealed cards, you can put those energy cards back to be used with Mirage Gate. If you run out of Sableyes or Cramorants, you can always shuffle those back in to have more attackers. Or any combination thereof. So is able to take that knockout with the Cramorant there. And we see a Judge this time coming out. So the Judge is a lot more disruptive to the Lost Box deck because it does make you draw 4 cards as opposed to Iono, which starts at 6. But in this case, if they got Iono'd, they would still be drawing the same number of cards 4 because they do have 4 prize cards here. So it doesn't really matter. You yourself are getting less cards off of this exchange because you could have been drawing 6 here instead of 4. It looks like we do have the Radiant Charizard would be the reason why we are playing Fire Energy. So it looks like maybe this is some sort of like meta counter Arceus deck. I do like to see that where they have the Radiant Charizard to just be able to take big knockouts. You could always slap a Choice Belt on that and hit for 280 on maybe an opposing Arceus V-Star or a Palkia V-Star. You could always one-shot a chien-pao or a Miraidon with it, and then you have the Darkness type in order to be able to counter the Gardevoirs and the Mew VMAXs as well. So you really like to see it. The only thing that I haven't seen here so far is that Sharon's Care, because then at that point you would be countering every deck in the format because that's the best way to help you counter something like the Lost Box. So it looks like we just didn't go for the shuffle or the cut there for the Trinity Nova yet, and does take the prize card, which is Iono. So it's entirely possible that that is the only one Fire Energy that's in the deck normally, that's in the prize cards right now. There might be maybe 2 or 3 copies and the rest are all Darkness, would make sense. You could always Trinity Charge or Trinity Nova 2 Darkness energies onto a Moltres, and then it gets the 3rd onto itself with its ability. I forgot what the ability is. It Dire Flame Wings or something is the ability where it puts a Darkness energy from the discard pile onto itself. So if you were able to like Trinity Charge, you could always put 1 energy onto your own Arceus V, 2 onto the Moltres, and then even if your active Arceus gets knocked out, the Moltres is still able to get that additional energy that it needs off of what used to be the Arceus that's now dead. So it looks like we might be trying to set up a Radiant Greninja turn. We are going to be using an Energy Recycler here. Almost confusing those cards in the Lost Zone with the discard pile. It's a little hard to tell which is which there. But going to shuffle those 5 energy cards that are in the discard pile back into the deck so that we have higher odds of hitting those off of draws from the Radiant Greninja as well as the Mirage Gate. The only thing is we have to... Okay, we do have a Mirage Gate in hand. So the question is, do you play the Colress before the Mirage Gate or after? Because you need to attach a water energy for a turn and then Mirage Gate a water energy as well as any other energy. So how do you get to... Oh, it looks like we're going to go for the bench. Instead, we're going to load up that Zamazenta. We put up the Radiant Greninja because it has a 1 retreat cost here. So we are actually going to go for this retaliation attack, which is going to do, I think it's 100 plus 120 if your Pokemon was knocked out last turn, or vice versa with the numbers. Either way, it's 220 base after the knockout is taken. We are going to go for the Colress's Experiment now as well. Since there have been a couple of energy cards thinned out of the deck, you're less likely to hit those off of it, which is pretty good. You don't want to draw into all of your energies when you want them in the deck for the Mirage Gate. But if you do draw them, it's not the worst because then you can always use Radiant Greninja's ability. So making those energies a little bit neater here. We're going to go for the Switch Cart. Is going to move that Zamazenta active, and now we're going to be able to hit for that big amount of damage. Even has another energy in hand, is able to use that concealed cards. We do get the Mirage Gate now. So we did have double Mirage Gate, so that would have been an attack with the Radiant Greninja this turn. If you had gone for it, you could have knocked out the Bidoof as well as put 90 on the active Pokemon, and then when your Greninja gets knocked out the next turn, you can then retaliate. You would just need 1 more Mirage Gate, I suppose. So guess it's a little more consistent. Go for this. You could always go for the knockout with the double knockout with the Greninja on the next turn, but as long as they evolve into the Bibarel, that's no longer an option, and of course they immediately evolve into the Bibarel, and we see the Iono yet again. This is the first match where we're seeing a lot of use of Iono. I think there was one match where each player used it once, but we've seen it from this player on the right twice in this one game. So Ultra Ball is going to get rid of a Choice Belt and another card. Going to search that deck for another Pokemon that we need. Oh, it looks like Umbreon VMAX is in here as well. So it's Umbreon VMAX as well as Moltres V. I like to see that a lot better, a lot more here. So it's an Arceus Umbreon deck. The Umbreon, when you evolve it into the VMAX, has an ability that is a lot like Boss's Orders. Gusts up one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active. So you can always choose what you want to knock out with the deck. So again, very good against Gardevoir in that way, as well as the Mew VMAX, because they are Darkness weak. It does 320 damage after weakness, since it starts out at 160, as long as all of the energy on it are basic. If you have one double turbo energy on it, you are reducing that damage by 20, and because of weakness, essentially by 40, because the weakness is applied after the double turbo. So that would only be 280. You would need a choice belt to still take the knockout on a Mew VMAX if you had a double turbo on it, and you would not be able to take the knockout without a cleansing gloves on the Gardevoir EX, because of course Gardevoir EX is not a V Pokemon, so the choice belt does not work on it. So here we go. We're going to use the Trinity Nova. Is going to take the knockout on that Zamazenta. We're going to put one fighting energy onto the other Arceus that's on our bench, now fully loaded up since it has a double turbo energy, as well as two darkness energies onto the Umbreon V. Now, Umbreon V also has an attack mean look for 30, and your opponent can't retreat. And sometimes you can use that on something like a Comfey just to lock it active for a turn if your opponent like misses the switching options. Then that metal energy is effectively useless on that Comfey there, just because of the fact that it can't even use that to retreat. It can't perform the action of retreating whatsoever. So it looks like we have the Artisan come out that allows you to search your deck for any basic Pokemon put onto your bench. Is it a basic one prize Pokemon? I think it's a basic one prize Pokemon. So really great in things like Gardevoir. Also works pretty well in Lost Box. You can grab that Sableye straight out from your deck. So we are going to go for the flower selecting here as well. We're going to Lost Zone another card. We're at least 10 cards in the Lost Zone, it looks like. So we will be able to attack with that Sableye. We'll be able to finish off this active and load some damage onto the bench as well. I think, let's see, you're going to go down to 2 prize cards remaining. So you could, I think you would just want to avoid the Bibarel at this point. Maybe just put all of that damage onto the Arceus and try to go through that as your last 2 prize cards. It's going to be a little harder to knock out the Umbreon if it evolves, because that'll be at, I think it's got like 310 or 300 HP. Might be 300. You'd always rather go through a 2 prize Pokemon than a 3 prize Pokemon, because their HPs are always lower. Or usually, I guess the EX Pokemon, if they're stage 2, have VMAX level HP at times. So we are going to go for that knockout here. We're going to take 2 prize cards off of that active. Taking the knockout with the Cramorant even, which is really great here. Be able to conserve double Sableye on the bench for use on future turns. Although, yeah, I mean, I guess the extra 10 damage you would be doing with the Sableye, and then whatever damage counters that go on the bench don't really matter too much at this point. So going with the Cramorant gets you a little bit more value, because you don't need the Psychic Energy. He could have also whiffed the Psychic Energy as well. So we're going to play a Nest Ball, get another Arceus V onto the bench. I don't think you need that at that point, but deck thinning is good. So we're going to attach a V Guard Energy. That's going to make it so V Pokemon have a lot harder of a time knocking you out. You do have a resistance of 30 to V Pokemon, essentially, there with that V Guard Energy. So we do get a Choice Belt. You can attach that to any of your Pokemon. I don't think it really matters, because your opponent hasn't shown you a single V Pokemon yet. There's probably not one in the deck, so you might as well just attach it just to just to get rid of it. You could just discard it with the research as well, but it's better to just put it into play just because, you know, what if your Pokemon lives and they do show you a 2-prizer, then maybe you can just boss his orders and knock it out. If maybe they have like the Galarian Zapdos V in the deck and they somehow whiff the knockout on your Arceus. So yeah, Galarian Zapdos V would be huge here for the Lost Box player because it would allow them to win on this next turn very easily. It would reduce its attack cost by 1 for each of the opponent's Pokemon V in play. Then you just attach 1 fighting energy and then take the knockout because the Arceus is fighting weak. But I don't think you need it because your opponent still needs to take 3 prize cards, so you feel fine just 2-shotting this Arceus here. You could even do the bench one instead. If you are able to Super Rod back in the Zamazenta along with a couple metal energies, bench it, and then Mirage Gate and attach for a turn to it, switch cart, and then boss's orders, you could actually win the game right here because you'd be able to do exactly 220 to that Arceus V that's on the bench. So that would be a way to win this turn as well with just a 1-prizer. But just shuffles in 1 Psychic Energy with the Super Rod. It looks like the Zamazenta is not an option anymore. Probably down to too few Mirage Gates, maybe. We are going to use our concealed cards to discard another energy and draw 2. We're going to use our Flower Selecting as well. The deck is getting pretty thin at this point. We're going to Lost Zone either a Psychic Energy or a Super Rod. I think the Super Rod is fine to get rid of here because you want that Psychic Energy guaranteed this turn. You Super Rodded 1 card in just to have the highest odds of seeing your Psychic Energy. So plays the Escape Rope here. That's going to allow him to move the Comfey out of his active spot and put that Sableye up. And now the opponent will just put up any of their Pokemon. It really doesn't matter because you can put whatever damage you want on whatever one of your opponent's Pokemon you want with that Sableye. So I think you probably want to just put 120 all on the active. Or maybe, yeah, I think 120 just on the active here. I don't believe he's played a supporter yet. He is trying to play Roxanne here. He's definitely not, I'm fairly confident he hasn't played a supporter yet this turn. But his opponent does have 3 prizes remaining, so he is able to play the Roxanne. So, shuffling what I think was his deck, putting the Roxanne down now. It's definitely hard to tell what's exactly going on here. But I think maybe he was just playing too fast and the judges lost track of what he was doing, maybe? It's probably the most reasonable answer, but it's very hard to tell. I'm not sure if that will comprise of any penalty or not. If so, if they were to award a 2-prize penalty, then the opponent would definitely be able to win fairly easily. So now we're going to go for the Roxanne. Perfectly fine, so I'm not sure why they stopped the match. We're going to shuffle both players' hands into the deck. The player on the right will draw 2, and the player on the left will draw 6. But the thing is, the Roxanne isn't really going to stick because there is a Bibarel in play. So that will allow this player to draw until they have 5 cards in their hand. So Roxanne might honestly even help them at times because you could get some dead cards out of their hand. Oh, no, goes for the full 120 just onto the Bibarel to make sure that that hand stays as dead as possible. But it looks like this player actually got a judge. Oh, doesn't go for the judge, goes for the research. I think that that's fine. You're thinning more cards out of your deck. Seeing more cards. You need an energy to retreat or an evolution plus the double turbo in order to attack. Even gets the, we even see the Lost City is in play now. The opponent, even if you were to judge them, is only going to have a few cards left in hand and deck combined anyway. So if they're looking for a specific something, they're probably going to get it either way. So we are going to see the Sableye is coming out here. We're going to see an Echoing Horn is going to bring back the Bidoof. And we're going to put 1 Psychic Energy back into the deck. Doesn't shuffle it. has the opponent shuffle Mirage Gate after the cut. That is rude. I would have just put it back into the deck, Mirage Gated out, and then, yeah, takes the knockout, and that was beautifully played by the Lost Box player. That was a little bit of a rough matchup to see, but yeah, definitely, it could have gone the way of the Arceus deck, but they just ended up being a turn or two behind. So, as always, guys, do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and all that good stuff that's listed right above my head, and we will see you guys next time for another round of this Japan Championships.